Hey everybody, this is a bonus episode. You guys get to see me twice today. So, don't know if that's good news or bad news for you, but it's good news for me. So, I'm missing my earrings again. I did it again. Okay, so anyway, I am coming on a little earlier tonight. Hello, Minister Trenda. Thank you for joining my live. I'm coming on early twice tonight, so I'll be on tonight at 6, which is now, and I'll be back on at 7 p.m. Thank you, but my guest has arrived, so I'm going to invite her on as soon as she requests to be on. Or maybe I should just go ahead and request her. There we go. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Y. Renee Cooper. I am a trauma recovery coach. Hey there, Elizabeth. I was just introducing myself. So thank you all for joining me. So what I did for this month when we're talking about traumas and triggers is I'm decided to talk about and pick divorce for a topic. Hopefully Elizabeth, her connection will get better because it seems like I'm losing her. Elizabeth, you still there? So what happened was, and I'm trying to introduce the lovely lady who has joined me. Elizabeth and I met in person for the first time at a conference in Atlanta it'll be 3 weeks ago this weekend. And we were just having a candid conversation and we were talking about divorce. She's going to come back. So we were talking about divorce and how it affects us and the whole title of divorce and how the word divorce has a negative connotation. And I was asking the question if when you're not married anymore and we get those applications, do we still check the box single? Do we check the box divorce? Do we not check any box because we feel it's nobody's business? Or however, we were talking about the conversation. It became a good conversation. But, Elizabeth was one of the first people I had this conversation with. And her testimony is so amazing. I want her to hurry up and come back on so we could talk about it. We get into it. And so here we go. There we go. So I just wanted to welcome her in as soon as she comes on. Here we go. Okay. Yay!
You can't get rid of me that easily.
I know that's right. These internet connections are ridiculous. So I was telling everybody about how this conversation started in Atlanta with us at the Next Speakers Conference and how we just really engaged and we had good conversation and that's how it got started. So you and Vanita are the people that initiated this conversation for the month of August. So please tell people about yourself and then we'll get started.
First and foremost, can you guys see and hear me? Because I can't see anything. It's super sunny.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name is Elizabeth. I am the face behind _I am Shin, or I am sunshine without the E. I met this wonderful lady at a conference 2 weeks ago in Atlanta for Next Level Speakers Academy, and she just came at me heavy, real heavy. And she asked me some very serious questions. She must have thought I was a baby. And she asked me if I'd ever been married or divorced. And I said I was actually divorced. I don't generally talk about my divorce. It was the first time I really opened up to somebody about my divorce. And we really had a very powerful dialogue. And then as the conference continued, the topic of divorce kept coming up. And so we really started talking about our lives and whether we recognize ourselves as a divorcee, a single person, never been married, how many times have we been divorced? So the conversation really started, found out she's a trauma recovery coach, and then she wanted to make a month full of this topic. And I think it's great for empowerment for men and women.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I so appreciate you. You know, I'll send you your money afterwards about all the kudos you gave me. So thank you very much. No, welcome everybody to my live again. I appreciate you all being here. Those who are live and watching the replay, we really appreciate you. Again, so Elizabeth, before we get into your actual story, and again, if I have any questions that are off limit, all you gotta do is tell me, Renee, be quiet, and I don't want to answer that, which is not a problem. However, so the way we got started, you and I. And this is the question I've been asking everybody first is, so do you consider yourself single or divorced? And which box do you check? However, and if whatever the reason for the box, could you give us the explanation of why you check whatever box you check?
So I am single. I do not check divorce. When I first got divorced, I had a doctor's appointment and I didn't know what to do in that form. I panicked. I was like, what do you mean? And my doctor, she said, you don't have children, you don't have assets that make it required that you have to report, She was like, you have nothing connecting you to this individual, so you are technically single. And I ran with that. Now, I do understand that if I were to get married again in the future, I do need to disclose that. I do need to disclose it for Social Security and for employment when they ask, have you ever gone by another name? Because I did take his last name at a certain point, but I resumed my own last name. So there are time and place where I do need to check the appropriate boxes. But I am single.
Good answer. So we dove in really, really deep standing there for those 5 or 10 minutes that we actually had to talk before the conference started. So, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. So when we talk about now that you identify as single, so let's just kind of go through, and again, you don't have to share all the details of your divorce, and because I can understand that it may cause triggers, may or may not cause triggers. I know it's a part of your journey. I know it's part of your testimony, which is amazing.
Thank you.
But when we talk about, so how long have you, okay, so first of all, y'all, like she said, I thought she was a baby. So when I asked her the question, I was like, she gonna tell me she like 19, 20, she ain't never been married or whatever have you. Come to find out, this beautiful gem that's sitting in front of me is in her 30s. I won't give away her age, but she's in her 30s. And I asked her like 5 times, almost asked her to pull out her ID, but she speaks with such wisdom, and her story is so powerful and impactful that, that kind of let me know that she's been around the block a few times. She knows what she's talking about, had some valley lows, some mountain highs, and she just really moved me to want to, she engaged, like she said, I engaged her, and she's never talked about it before, but really, like, she engaged me, and I appreciate the fact being that she didn't turn me away or not ask me anything, or like be like, shut up, get away from me, I don't want to talk about it. So it was something about, I guess, the comfortability, that she felt comfortable enough to talk with me, which again, I really appreciate. So how long have you been divorced now, Elizabeth?
It'll be 6 years this coming November.
6 years this coming November. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so when you were going through the process of your divorce, before I ask you one question, I want to know, do you feel that you did everything you possibly could to save your divorce? And the reason why I ask is because these conversations are not just talking about divorce and triggers, but of course, we both believe in the institution of marriage. We talked about that and how we
Yes,
feel about being married and what we believe in and our faith in God and things of that nature. So
absolutely.
the reason why I'm also having these conversations is to, one, try to take off all the negative connotations that come with divorcees. Two, to give people who are interested in being married or contemplating marriage also tips and tools that they need to avoid where we're at now. You know what I'm saying? And I understand, like I said, it's our journey, and we had to go through, we went through for a reason and a purpose. However, I think that we have the tools to assist people who are looking to be married, to let them know that this is a full-time job. You gonna have bumps, bruises in between, but it's talking about communication, and it's a lot of work. So my question again would be, how do you feel like you did everything you could, and what efforts did you take to try to save your marriage?
So I'm gonna make a really bold statement, and I don't mean any disrespect to any of your viewers or my viewers. I've always said I'd rather be a widow on my wedding day than a divorcee, and I
Wow,
still feel that. I still
that's
feel that.
powerful.
I don't believe in divorce, but yet I'm divorced. I'm a Christian. I don't believe in divorce. My situation is very unique. I'm sure everyone feels that way. Um, we went through counseling. We went through thousands of dollars of counseling. We spent all kinds of time and energy. And at the end of the day, my husband, my ex-husband, no longer believed in God. There was some series of bad decisions that were made, but the number one thing was he no longer believed in God, and he knew at that point we were disconnected. So everything under our faith and our quote unquote belief system of what marriage is, me being his helpmate, was us being yoked as one. He didn't believe in the core fundamentals of that, and he knew that the value that I put into marriage is sacred to me. Marriage is the most beautiful thing you can ever experience. It is sacred. It is a full-time job. It is the most selfless thing you could ever do. It is the most beautiful thing you can share with somebody. Aside from bringing life into this world, it is the most beautiful, beautiful thing. I am a firm believer of marriage. But I knew that not only did I lose my best friend and everything in my life, and it catapulted this huge decision, like, what are we going to do? I knew based on who he was to me and what we had, we were together for 13 years. 13 years. I knew that I would have to check every single solitary box, every single box. Forgiveness, question, anger, grief, all of it. I literally felt like something died inside of me. I literally felt like I lost a complete item, like something died. And so, yes, we went through therapy, we went through counseling, we tried all of these things. We did for 3 years. I didn't go to my parents. I didn't go to anybody else. His parents were involved. My parents were across the country. It was him and I. This is something you and I did. We took an oath in front of God. We took an oath in front of our family. We're going to sit here and try everything. And at the end of the day, I had to accept that the person I married and had known all these years was no longer that person. And all the foundational principles that brought us together initially, he no longer believed in because of events that took place in life. He was mad at God and stopped believing in God. So he no longer believed in the institution of marriage. But not only did I lose my husband and lost a part of me, I lost my best friend. We still don't even speak to this day. So I still have to deal with that. But I know going forward that I checked every single box. I went through everything because I could never go forward and heal and recover and survive if I had any questions about what ifs or anything.
So it's safe to say, because you said it, so I'm going to reiterate it several times. So before you went into this covenant, you all both were believers,
Absolutely.
which was the foundation of your marriage, and
Absolutely.
whatever traumatic events happen to cause that foundation to be uprooted and broken apart. You did everything in your power to try to keep the marriage together. So my question would be now, this kind of deep, but this is we talking deep stuff, and we
We,
talking about God, and we right here.
we got that
So
heavy relationship. You came smack right at me 10 minutes into a briefing before we even had name tags. Just
so
baby
look.
face.
So again, thank you everybody for joining my live, and those watching the replay. We appreciate you. So now we're talking about faith, and we're talking about foundation. So the Bible says that a husband is sanctified by the wife, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the midst of 3 years of you trying to do everything with that scripture, when did you feel the release from God? Because again, so let me just be transparent in my part. I understand fully. I felt like you did. You know, I went into my marriage knowing some things I probably should not have married him. I did not marry my best friend. I married somebody I knew. I met the PR person. I fell in love. I ended up marrying him thinking that he would change because we both grew up. Well, he grew up in church more than I did, but I thought we both had a relationship with God that whereas he didn't, I did. And I felt like that once I get married, things will change. So now yours is kind of like the total opposite of mine. You guys started that way. You believed it. It went through whatever traumatic, like I said, events that happened. Now you're at this point where you're going through counseling. When was it within the 3 year span and you realized you had did everything that you felt like it was time to just say, okay, God, I've done everything I can. I can't do this anymore. When was that point?
I'm gonna be very transparent with your viewers. So, a few months before I got married, they thought I had lupus. I didn't get my official diagnosis till last year. I was sick, sicker than I don't know what on my wedding, my honeymoon, first 2 years. Had blood tests every week, once a month, urine tests. I thought I was being given a death sentence. This man held me in his arms and told me, no matter what, we will face this and go through this together. All we wanted to do was get married and start a family. I was supposed to be in a wedding about 6 months after our wedding, and I was sick, extremely sick, in pain, agonizing pain, on different medications, fatigue, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't walk to the end of the hallway, couldn't do anything. My husband found comfort in somebody else, and that comfort came from another woman. And 8 months into my marriage, while my doctors are telling me not to have children because the medications my body would need to go on to combat my disease, lupus is a very challenging autoimmune disease. For anyone who doesn't know, it's very challenging to get a diagnosis. And we're talking about 10 years ago now. A lot of things have changed. But these medications can cause fetal birth defects. So we were told not to have children. I found out 8 months into my marriage that my husband was expecting a child by another woman that conceived while we were married. I got one phone call. My entire life changed in a matter of seconds. And my first words were, I want a divorce. And then I said, you know what? Grab my hand. We're going to pray. We're going to pray. because I knew by the look on his face that that was his child. We did get a DNA test when it was safe and everything, so I knew before the baby was born. I was willing to co-parent this child and help raise this child, and it didn't happen. And so knowing how good of a man he was and the qualities he had that made me fall in love with him so many years ago, I told that woman, I said, he's going to be the best father ever. I never seen him change a diaper. He's the oldest. He was already in high school and college by the time his younger siblings were around. But that yearning to be a father, that yearning. And I knew once that baby came, it was going to be very challenging for him to find a balance. But talking about Christianity and spiritual warfare, he lost his faith in God way before that happened. And he didn't know what to do. It was embarrassment, shame, guilt, all kinds of things. And the people, the family that he had a baby with, they're not the most godly per se. They have other belief systems that they believe in casting spells and other things on people and not fully wholeheartedly into God. And he realized, oh my God, like this is a bloodline I have created with this family. This is a bloodline that I have introduced to my family. I prayed every single day for God to give me strength, but I knew that baby had nothing to do with the situation. I knew that there was enough adults in the room that that baby would be spoiled with love because that baby had the blessing of breath in his lungs, and that God did not make a mistake when that woman conceived. So if anybody can break that generational curse, that baby has that window. And so I kept my faith in my God. I kept faith in God. I kept praying. 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 And I just said, God, you spoke over this many, many years ago. I met my husband when I was very young. I was just about to graduate from college. I was 18. I started college when I was 16. I was emancipated, lived on my own. And we were together for many, many years. And so it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. So the only thing that I can continue to do is to pray that he will find God again. But when I realized that he no longer believed in God and there was no, oh, I'm going to give my life back to God, or, hey, I want to give this God thing a try again, I can't be yoked with that. I want to be a wife and a mother, and I'm fighting for my life, not knowing what's wrong with me, not knowing if I have a death sentence. And the only thing I wanted was to be a wife and a mother. And this is what you did, because you couldn't deal with the fact that I have an uncurable disease that we don't know the outcome for me. So there's a lot of layers to it. But now when I got my diagnosis last year, it was extremely difficult. I'm not a mother, I'm not married, and I want that more than anything. But the only thing I can do, because I will love that man till my last breath, is pray for him that he finds Jesus. I will pray and pray and pray and pray. Thankfully, my in-laws and I are super close. They have treated me like a daughter since day one. They still love me. If I got married tomorrow, they'd be at my wedding. If one of my parents dropped dead, they would be there. If something happened to me, they would be there. That's family for life. But as far as people not believing in God, my faith is everything to me, and that's all I have. So when you broke that sanctity of our marriage and you had another child with another woman while we were married, after we got married, some things are really hard to change. But I stuck in it for 3 more years. I went to every single doctor's appointment by myself. We went through counseling and everything, but to see what type of father he was, and when he stepped up, I knew it was a matter of time where things would just explode and he couldn't live with himself. He couldn't live with the guilt, the shame. But I never aired my dirty laundry. I'm a very private person. You have to live with that. You have to explain to your son one point in time. It's public domain. You had a unlawful child. You have to explain that. But I tried everything. So I prayed and prayed. And when I realized that he no longer loved God, I was like, God, I can't do this. I can't bring a child into this world and share that bloodline with someone who doesn't believe in you after all that they've done. Like, I deserve more. And, over the years, he was like, God really sent you to me to save my life and to be a messenger to me. So that's the only piece that I have. But we don't speak. We don't talk. I've accomplished so much since then. That was my number one phone call. That was my best friend. My wedding was everything I could have ever dreamed of. The day I got engaged was the best day of my life. And he not only hurt me, he hurt his family, my family, everybody. Like, he made a series of bad decisions because he spiraled out of control, all because he lost faith.
Wow. So in the last 3 years of counseling, you had a conversation with God and just basically said you couldn't do it anymore. So were you the one who filed, or did he file?
He filed. I said, you stepped outside of this marriage. I'm not going anywhere. This is till death do us part. But I can't continue to be in a marriage with a ghost. The last year was really rough. really, really rough. There was some tragedies at my side of I'm from West Coast. We were living on the East Coast. The house that I was born and raised in was totally destroyed in a fire, completely destroyed, no homeowners insurance or anything. So the only safe place I've ever known in my life was completely gone. And we were complete strangers. Didn't even know who he was. And so I no longer knew who the person was in front of me. And that broke my heart. Like, that broke my heart more than anything. Like, I can forgive what you did. This baby's innocent. You know, that's not a reason to leave somebody. But you're unlovable because you no longer love yourself and you just push everything away. So I told him, I said, obviously you're not happy. So you can go ahead and file. I'm shipping out. Once the judge was like, bye bye, file for my name to get changed. Bye bye.
So during this, when he decided to file and you went along with it for purposes of understanding that he was no longer really the person that you fell in love with, he was no longer your best friend. Did you have support during the process?
Yes, yes. Initially, I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anybody. Two people figured it out. I work at a trauma center, and they were like, "Did you get diagnosed with a terminal illness? Did you get your diagnosis?" And I was like, "Not terminal, and I don't know what my diagnosis is." And they're like, "What happened with your marriage?" And they're like, "You know, you're strong, but like something's hurting." And I confided in them, and I talked about co-parenting this child, getting a crib, having a room, raising the child together, and really just being supportive and stuff and bringing that child into love. And I was completely shut down. His parents and our church family were phenomenal. His parents have been with me through the first step. And then when my father and my parents found out, they were super supportive. They were like, "This isn't a reason to end your marriage." And I was like, "We've been working on this for 3 years." But one of my girlfriends, if you guys haven't paid attention to me the last couple of days, I've been with her all weekend here in Southern California. I prayed for God-fearing women many years ago because a lot of my friends are guys, and she's like my sister. That woman would stay on the phone with me just crying for hours, not even able to say anything. And one of my friends that I'm here with now, he's like my big brother. Same thing. I worked with these guys, and they were my family away from family. I had no family on the West Coast. I mean, the East Coast. I had all my family on the West Coast. My in-laws were there, but they were an hour away from me. And my family was in New York, so I was by myself. So my village and my prayer warriors became my village. Like, they would pray with me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, anytime I needed prayer. And some of the things that they utilized to help me, like if I sent them a text message or a phone call, they would say, "Are you okay?" Gave me a chance to respond, and then they would act accordingly. They still have that implemented now, and it helps in so many ways. But I wouldn't be where I am right now without my faith. I wouldn't be where I am without my therapist and my pastor and my family and my in-laws. I wouldn't. No, that was the most devastating thing I've ever gone through.
So you don't sound like you do, but I know being in that position of going through a divorce, we have the like good angel, bad angel type thing going on our shoulders. So at any point in time, did you blame yourself during the course of this? Like,
I blame myself for not being a friend to him, for not realizing how scared he was. I didn't know until the end, like the end, that the initial contact, I mean, that's a lie too, because their initial contact I learned was a year before, if you want to talk about being transparent. His best friend got married, and that's where they first met and first had a fling. I didn't even know anything about that. Like, I was so far removed. Hadn't even know an idea. But when I got sick and I was in and out of the doctor's appointments, giving vials of blood and having testing, calling all my family. And then I got the news that, yes, this is what we think you have. You're just missing one symptom, but we're going to treat you like you have this. Just to see the toll on him, just to see, like, hey, like, what can we do, to be told not to have children right then. He just completely just checked out. I mean, I work in healthcare. I take care of sick people. My friends take care of me now because, as you know, I have lupus and it's been pretty active. But he would give me my medication and then go be with his mistress. He would feed me, give me my medication, wait till me fall asleep, and then not even be there with me. He never went to a single doctor's appointment with me. So when I think about all these things, like, he was so afraid that I was being given a death sentence. There wasn't a lot of research on it or anything. And he didn't know how to deal with that. He doesn't know how to deal with sickness. Yes, was he comforting? Was he there when I was puking my brains out and pain all throughout my body? Was he there sometimes? Yes. He also traveled a lot for work, but he tried and he didn't know what to do. So he found counsel in somebody else and it just catapulted from there. So I feel bad that he didn't feel comfortable enough being vulnerable with his emotions and saying, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen to you. I learned that later.
But I look at that and I mean, kudos, because that's a big thing. But when I think about some men, not all men, when I think about some men, I keep saying stuff on my face. I'm sorry. When I keep saying think about some men, I think that that's almost like a cop out, because you refuse to identify with your feelings. And my thing is, if you're talking about going into covenant with me, he asked you to marry him, I'm quite sure, before he even had this fling with this other girl, before she even came a part of the thing. You all been best friends for years before that. The fact being is, if you're my best friend, I should be able to talk to you about anything, because I have the same problem now with somebody that I dated. And because we put each other up on pedestals, sometimes when we're friends like that, we think we're supposed to marry our best friend because it sounds good in theory, because we know each other in and out and we talk about everything. But however, when we cross that line of being in a relationship, somehow or another we begin to put up imaginary walls of certain things that we feel like we can't be honest with the person that we're in a relationship with. And I think that's a part of the enemy, because I think that when two people such as me and you, and then the people that we're connected to that have God, in your ex-husband at the time had God as his foundation, the enemy will come in and try to wreck what he has. Because one, we know that marriage is an institution that God is very, very prevalent in and very powerful, because marriage is likened to him. It's a ministry likened to him. So when we think about what we can do or what happens in marriage, if we allow God to really use our marriage as ministry, the enemy gets mad. So he throws things, and I feel kind of bad, because they'll say that we're the weaker vessel because Eve ate the fruit off the tree, yada yada yada. But at the same time, now I believe that because we are the rib, because we are the helpmeet, because we have so much stuff put on us, we're the stronger vessel. Because when it comes to emotional distress, when it comes to emotional conversations, men will check out when we're the ones trying to help you get through it for whatever reason. So whenever I go through something, you go through something. You went through something that was physical. I went through something, and I know it messed with your emotional too, because you don't know what's wrong with you. You're tired of being sick or whatever have you. But I went through something very emotional. And when I went through my emotions, my person checked out because I shut down. And it didn't have anything to do with my relationship. It had to do with spiritual change. It had to do with my situation and my environment around me changing. And I didn't know what to do with it. So instead of just being that comfort and that pillar of strength for me until I could muddle through my own emotions so I could actually talk about it, they checked out. And we're not the only ones going through this. There are other couples that do the same thing. And I loved it when I got a lot from Shannon and Shirley from the conference.
They were amazing.
However, there were some things that I know they probably didn't get a chance to touch on because their time was limited. But when I think about stuff like that, I think that we all know that communication is the key. And we forget sometimes how to communicate, but definitely men, because they're always taught to be a certain way, to be strict and stature, and don't let nobody know that you're vulnerable. Don't let anybody know you have emotions. Don't let nobody know you cry. So at the same time too, with you being his best friend, once you all crossed into a relationship, he shut down the best friend side and just dealt with relationship side.
The best friend stuff came with our relationship.
Well, no, what I'm saying is you all met before, and what I'm saying is, as far as being a best friend, before everything happened, even after the engagement, before you got sick, you all were cool, I believe, and I could be wrong. We don't know everything. So yeah, I'm quite sure you had no problem having conversations. You had no problem hitting the hard parts. Once your illness came in and he was afraid of losing you, of dealing with it, of not knowing, afraid of the unknown, he shut down to a fact being, instead of saying, like you said, I'm scared, or getting counseling for the part of how do I deal with this, because now I want her to be my wife, but now she's going to be sick. I'm afraid she's going to die. He just shut down completely. And instead of talking to another male friend, he went and sought, counseling in a female who was pursuing him, I'm quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem when these men get these attention from these females, and when females know that they're in relationships and they don't care.
She was 16 years younger than him. She was just fresh out of school.
And that's
Like,
and that's
that
when you
should, when you
and
want
when
to
they
add,
want stuff, they go after it. And then I know some men, they get comfortable. They think that it's the thrill of the chase or the thrill of the hunt or being hunted. They let all this stuff get inside. So, okay, so I'm gonna go off on a whole nother tangent. That's something totally different.
all I'm saying is that now hindsight's 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got married in August, and May is when my quote unquote disease popped up. He had an opportunity to say, you know what, I can't do this. Because before we walked down that aisle, the doctors had already told me it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If your disease isn't active now, it will be. And so, hey, if we call off this wedding, that's fine. Like, just be 100% real. It's no feelings lost. That's how much I believed in marriage. You know what I mean? If I'm going to do it, I'm only going to do it once. And you knew what marriage meant to me. You knew like how sacred marriage was. You knew like the whole package deal of what it meant to me. You still played it. You still went into something half-heartedly. And just to get on a spiritual tip, when my pastor who married us said to me, in all the years I've been a pastor, I can't even tell you if your marriage counted in God's eyes in the content that my husband came to the altar with full lies, full lies. You went to the altar telling lies out of whatever. And so when all these details emerge, like fact for fact details, not hearsay or whatever, and I had the person who spoke over our marriage many years prior. Our marriage had been spoken over, our relationship has been spoken over and prophesied over for years. That person who's known my ex since he was in diapers, to have him say, I can't even tell you that as a clergy member because of the amount of lies, infidelity, and just dishonesty that he came to the altar with. He was like, yeah, here you're legally married on paper. But in God's eyes, how do you come to the altar from the moment you say I do and take communion to become one with a heart full of lies? Wow. When those words came out of his mouth, you want to talk about what you asked me earlier about when did I know? Mm-hmm. I had to marinate on that for almost a year. I had to marinate on that, like really heavily think about what was said to me. And I like prayed about it, had a lot of counsel about it, therapy and all this other stuff. And I was like, wow, and a lot of non-believers might not understand where you and I are going with this, but this is my truth. But what I will tell anybody is marriage is a beautiful thing. But why are you getting married? What is marriage to you? Do you guys share that concept of marriage? I yearn to be married. I hope to be married and be a mom. Like, my body's okay. I'm a little, my eggs are a little getting up there. So I do have that clock. But, I want to give that love to somebody. I want to be that partner. I want to build that foundation, and it breaks my heart that I'm divorced. But I wanted to jump on here with you to talk to people because everyone gets divorced for a different reason. No one walks down the aisle wanting to get divorced. No one starts a marriage saying, hey, I'm going to get divorced in a month, 5 weeks, 5 years.
If you do, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right. So, but there's a forgiveness process that you have to forgive yourself. I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive him. But the greatest thing that I can do, and the most selfless thing that I can do, and the most demonstrative way of demonstrating unconditional love to him is pray for him daily. It's my greatest tool. It's my greatest act of selflessness is to pray for his heart to find peace in God and for him to rebuild that relationship. Some people might not believe in God and they might have strong feelings about marriage, but I believe in God and I believe I'm a Christian. I believe in marriage in a Christian facet, and I believe in heaven, and I believe that that person, his soul right now is not happy. So anything he does, he can't commit to it. But I knew that I left that with grace because I'm going to conduct myself and treat you the way I love you. If I say I love you, I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm not going to go out here and bad mouth you and tell everyone my business and all this other stuff. You made a series of bad decisions. That doesn't define you. And so now you're lost. I'm not going to beat a dog when they're down. It's not my job.
Good. You answered my last kind of question before we wrap this up. I asked you, did you ever want to get married again? So you answered yes, that you do believe in institutional marriage and marriage is what you desire. So my prayer is that God answers your prayer quickly, because I know you say your eggs are going up in time. And y'all, I told you, this little girl look like she 15, 16, 21, maybe. Look like she's drinking a little bit of wine or some
No,
apple
this is
juice
a
there.
glass of wine. No, it's a
Right.
glass of wine. It
So,
says
but she's
sunshine and
actually
champagne.
she's actually in her 30s, which I told, like, I had to ask her 3 times. I thought she was telling me a fib. So my last question would be, um, are there things that still trigger you other than the word divorce? Are there things that trigger you that you may have apprehension about going into another marriage?
There is a trigger. So I work in healthcare, and some licensing I applied for because my career started when we were together. So it's kind of like getting your social security number. Once your name and number are created, you can't change it. You can't change it. So there's certain documents that his last name is like part of my username. I can't change it. That is like nails on a chalkboard. It like it's like drawing blood from me. Like it's so painful. Like I fought like heck to get my name changed before I moved home. And then I couldn't get those things changed. And it was devastating. I actually wrote letters saying how it's a traumatic trigger. It is a traumatic trigger to go through that. And I had to work through that and stuff because it's just like, oh my God, like no. But other than that, that's the only thing. The other thing is people like yourself, when they see me, they have no idea how old I am. And age to me is a trigger because I've always been the baby. I've always had a baby face. I've been mature for my age since I was young. I started life a little bit sooner than most people would based on some other events in my life, you know. And so people are always like, but you're just a baby. You don't know nothing about that. You're just a baby. Like, why'd you get married so young? You probably got married when you were like 18, 19. You just want to meet a man, fall in love. No. And so once we get past that initial, like, oh, you're closer to 40? Oh, now what do you want to talk about? Like, so, you know, that
I'm guilty.
defensive.
Look, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I'm guilty. I apologize.
She came straight for me. She was like, "You just a baby. Like you just a baby." But one of the things
I
I
wanted
want
to hug you. I
to,
wanted to hug you like.
one of the things I do want to say though, marriage is a beautiful thing. No matter your culture, no matter your religion, marriage is truly a beautiful thing. But if you are married or you yearn to be married or you are married, remember that it's a partnership between two people and your happiness is equated to their happiness and vice versa because you feed off of each other. And in order to be successful, you have to respect one another and continue to grow because who you married 10 years ago is not who they're going to be here today. And so changes are going to take place and you have to be ready to adapt to those changes because if you're not ready to adapt, you're not ready for marriage. Like you said earlier in the very beginning, marriage is a full-time job. It is 24/7, 365 for the rest of your life. But you're married to yourself, you're married to God, and you're married to your partner. And so you have to find that balance to be willing to say, what's going on? How can we get back on the same page? What do we need to do? Therapy, support groups, accountability, partnerships, none of that is shameful. They're tools to help you become successful. And so no matter if you get married when you're 18 or when you get married when you're 48, you can apply some of these things.
Most
And, you know,
definitely.
for anybody who is like myself, who's divorced, it's okay. It's okay. There's a lot of reasons people get divorced. Sometimes it's a matter of life or death. Do not beat yourself up. It's okay. And I'm very happy that I met you. I'm very happy that you know you're brave and you came and talked to a stranger. And I'm really happy that you did this month of stuff because I really feel like our society needs to be healed and that stigma needs to be removed and that we just need to have more empathy for one another and not put blame on people.
Well, you are amazing, Elizabeth. I appreciate you. I've been in awe of you since we like met through, well, we didn't actually meet, but I would listen to you through our weekly calls, and then to meet you in person was amazing. So I just really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me. I may have you back on again in the future for other things. We'll coincide a time. There's other things that I want to talk about as far as triggers and things like that that I think you could add value to. So
Absolutely.
again, I want to thank you. You are amazing. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You all meet me back here She's in California, Tanya. I wish she could be here. My girlfriend, I'm at a retreat this weekend. I'm speaking at a retreat this weekend, and the retreat is here in Illinois. But no, she lives in sunny California.
No. I live in Seattle.
No,
I live
Seattle.
in
I'm sorry. She's
Seattle.
in
I'm
Seattle,
on
but you're in California.
vacation. I'm in vacation. I'm on vacation right now in Southern California, actually with my support group to give them all
Awesome.
shout outs. I'm out here with my one moved to California, the other still lives in Philly, but I'm out here with them because
Oh,
it's
that's
how
amazing.
I reset and regroup, and also just say thank you for being on this ride with me, because the last 60 days, my life has changed so much, and God is so powerful. And I wouldn't be who I am today without them. And I won't be where I'm going without them, because they're a part of that team and that train of support. So I like to take a few days out and just spend time with them and regroup.
Well, that's amazing. And we need that. So Tanya, maybe you can follow her here on IG. And she
Hi,
said,
Miss
because maybe
Tanya.
next year, she said maybe next year you can follow her on IG and you can try to get her out here next year for the conference. She would be an amazing value and asset to your conference. So,
I would love to commit to it. Thank you so much for having me. We will work again. And
of course,
FYI, I miss your hugs. I do miss her hugs. She gives the best hugs. She gives the best hugs, and she has a great
it's a
smile.
mothering hug. Everybody tells me it's a mothering hug. So I received that. It's taken me years to combat that trigger because I never had kids of my own. I wanted to have kids, but I think God downloaded a lot of mothering instincts inside of me, and I have that parental vibe regardless of me having natural children. So I
Yeah,
just
no,
want to
it was
thank you again.
beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm
So
so happy we met. We're going to
yes,
be in
ma'am.
contact. We're going to see each other again. In any way I can help support you in anything that you're doing, please feel free. I do not mind sharing.
Well, thank you very much. Well, my next big event will be in Detroit, Michigan next month, which I'm talking about now. I'll be speaking September 18th in Detroit, Michigan. I have the link all over my page, Facebook page, this page. You all can buy tickets virtually, or if you want to drive to Detroit, they have rooms available and you can sit live in the audience. There are tickets for both of that. I'm going to take a 15-minute break because I got added you as a
We
bonus
both have
person.
lives to be on.
Right, I added you as a bonus person for today because of your schedule, and I appreciate you fitting yourself into my schedule for the month. But I'm coming back at 7 o'clock with my good girlfriend Sheila Anderson to talk some more about divorce. So thank you all. Thank you for joining me in this bonus segment,
Thank you
and
for
I'll
having
be.
me.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. You all follow Elizabeth Shin. I am Elizabeth Shin, or I am Sunshine. I'm sorry. I was giving you a full name. I'm sorry. I am Sun Shin instead of almost Sunshine, but I am Sun Shin underscore. Let me get it right. Underscore. I am Sun Shin. You all can follow her here on IG. You know what? Let's make it easy. Click the button that we on now. If not, I'm definitely going to tag her in this so you all can follow her. She is someone can add great value in anything. She's also on the healthcare facility vector. So if you have any questions about anything dealing with healthcare, please reach out to her. She's a really good asset, not just to the world, but to the kingdom. And I believe that you're going to do some marvelous things. And the fact being that we're under the great tutelage of Mr. Jeremy Anderson, who I'm giving a shout out to now, if he ever watches this, that that we're both going to do great things. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. So thank you again. And I'll
Thank
see
you.
everybody in about 15 minutes. Okay.
Goodbye,
Thanks,
everyone. Have a good
Elizabeth.
night.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one.